Welcome back, golfers. Welcome to Innisbrook's Copperhead Course, home of the Valspar Championship, one of the most demanding, decision-driven tests on the PGA Tour. Throughout this hole-by-hole walkthrough, we're going to break down how Copperhead actually plays, not just how it looks on the scorecard. Let's head to the first tee. Hole 1 is a par 5 measuring 560 yards, and it's about as gentle a start as players will see all week. It consistently plays as the easiest hole on the course, averaging nearly half a stroke under par during the Valspar Championship. From the tee, players face a downhill drop of more than 50 feet, encouraging a confident first swing and plenty of distance. But the fairway below is narrow and sinewy, rewarding commitment while quietly punishing hesitation, even on a hole designed to be attacked. The real test comes at the green. Subtly pitched and more demanding than it appears, it places a premium on approach angle and distance control. Miss the correct side, and even a routine birdie putt can quickly become uncomfortable. Hole 2 is a par 4 measuring 435 yards, and it delivers an immediate shift in tone. This is the first of many tee shots on the course that forces players to reckon with an awkward fairway bend, and the decisions start to get uncomfortable quickly. The hole plays slightly uphill and presents a classic Copperhead dilemma. Players can bite off extra yardage off the tee, challenging the corner in search of a shorter approach. But miss the line by even a few yards and the penalty comes fast, with thick rough and water waiting to swallow aggressive drives. The conservative option is to lay back, but that decision isn't free either. Choosing safety off the tee often means adding 1 or 2 clubs into a demanding approach, played uphill to a green that doesn't offer much forgiveness. Hole 3 is a par 4 measuring 455 yards, and it's the first hole on the front 9 where the course begins to apply real pressure off the tee. Water starts to pinch the fairway just 245 yards from the elevated championship tee, forcing an early decision. For many players, that means laying back with a hybrid or long iron, choosing position over distance to stay dry. But that conservative choice comes with a cost. By taking driver out of hand, this hole plays far longer than most modern par 4s of similar length, especially in an era where 455 yards often means driver and wedge. Here, it's frequently long iron into the green, turning what looks like an attack hole on the card into a grind in reality. Hole 4 is a par 3 measuring 195 yards, and it begins a stretch that will eventually form one of the longest collections of par 3s on the PGA Tour. On the surface, the question it asks is fairly straightforward. Can you hit a high, controlled middle iron, ideally with a soft fade for the right-handed player? Most of the time, the answer is yes. But Copperhead never lets a simple question go unguarded. 3 greenside bunkers sit ready to punish anything that drifts even slightly offline. A 4th bunker, well short of the green, serves more as a visual warning than a real factor, but the message is clear. This is a hole that rewards trajectory control and commitment. Miss your window or lose your shape, and what should be a routine par quickly turns into a demanding up and down. Hole 5 is a par 5 stretching 605 yards, and it may be the most interesting individual hole on the property, even if it doesn't always get the attention it deserves this early in the round. The routing is inspired. The hole marches long and straight uphill, demanding patience and restraint, before reaching the crest of the hill where the fairway abruptly bends left. That single design feature changes the entire decision tree. Good tee shots invite temptation. From the fairway, many professionals try to press their advantage, bashing a second shot as far up the hole as possible in hopes of setting up a short approach, or even flirting with getting near the green in 2. More often than not, that aggression leads to awkward recovery shots from uneven lies or compromised angles, turning opportunity into trouble. But when it works, when a player successfully navigates the bend and gets close to the green in 2, it's one of the most exciting moments on the front 9. Hole 6 is a par 4 measuring 465 yards, and it showcases one of the course's most effective defenses against modern power, the reverse-camber fairway. Off the tee, players must shape the ball against the prevailing slope, not with it. Drives that don't hold their line are slowly pushed away from ideal position, turning what looks like a generous corridor into a subtle test of control and intent. But the challenge doesn't end there. The approach plays into an elevated, elusive green that becomes significantly harder to access without the correct angle and distance from the fairway. Miss the approach short or on the wrong side, and even elite players are left scrambling from awkward lies below the putting surface. Hole 7 is a par 4 measuring 420 yards, and on paper, it looks like a green light scoring opportunity. It's the second shortest two-shot hole on the course, with no fairway bunkers and a large putting surface waiting at the end. But Copperhead rarely rewards first impressions. The tee shot is framed by narrow confines, forcing precision even without bunkers to dictate strategy. From there, the approach plays into a green that feels far smaller than it actually is. Large, imposing bunkers dominate the visual, shrinking the effective target and putting pressure on distance control. Hole 8 is a par 3 measuring 235 yards, and it highlights one of the purest separators in professional golf: long iron play. This is a skill set that few PGA Tour courses truly test anymore, but Copperhead does, and it does so unapologetically. From the back tee with a rear hole location, this par 3 can stretch beyond 250 yards, turning what would be a fairway wood for many amateurs into a demanding long iron or hybrid for the best players in the world. There's no trick here. No bailout that feels comfortable. The challenge is simple and unforgiving. Launch it high, control the spin, and land it on a firm green from long range. Hole 9 at Innisbrook's Copperhead Course is a par 4 measuring 442 yards, and it's one of the rare spots on the course where power gets a clear advantage. Courses that rely heavily on fairway bunkering often favor the longest hitters, and while Copperhead usually works to neutralize that edge, this hole leans the other way. A carry of roughly 295 yards off the tee can completely take the fairway bunkers out of play, turning the hole into a far more straightforward test for bombers. But distance alone doesn't solve everything. Finding the fairway still matters, because the approach plays uphill into one of the slicker putting surfaces on the course. Miss the fairway, and controlling trajectory and spin becomes far more difficult, especially to a green that sheds marginal shots quickly. Hole 10 is a par 4 measuring 445 yards, and it begins the back 9 with a simple truth: what goes up swiftly comes down. The tee shot plays downhill, offering another opportunity for long hitters to separate themselves, even as trees line both sides of the fairway and keep the landing area visually honest. There's room to swing freely, but only if the line is committed. The approach is equally straightforward. 2 bunkers collar either side of the green, which slopes gently from back to front and rewards solid contact and proper distance control. Hole 11 is a par 5 measuring 575 yards, and it continues the course's thoughtful and demanding collection of 3-shot holes. Running along the property's eastern boundary, this par 5 draws a hard line off the tee. Miss the fairway, and the decision is made for you. You're laying up. But find the short grass, and the hole immediately becomes far more interesting. That's where Copperhead tightens the vise. A large, backward C-shaped bunker cuts across the fairway roughly 40 yards short of the green, complicating any attempt to get home in 2. Players who push their luck are forced to thread a narrow needle, weighing aggression against a very real penalty. Even successful second shots don't guarantee comfort. The relatively small putting surface leaves little margin for error and often produces awkward greenside recoveries, turning what looked like a scoring chance into a nervy up and down. Hole 12 is a par 4 measuring 380 yards, and once again, the hole plays longer than the number on the card. Often described as a little sister to hole 3, this short par 4 quickly takes driver out of players' hands. Water intrudes into the landing area and then cuts off the fairway, effectively capping the tee shot at no more than 225 yards. Position, not power, dictates the play. That forced restraint changes the math, but not necessarily the outcome. Tour players are comfortable attacking from a flat lie inside 165 yards, and Copperhead gives them a break here. The putting surface is relatively benign, offering fewer tricks than many greens on the property and rewarding a well-struck approach. Hole 13 is a par 3 measuring 200 yards, and it's one of the rare par 3s that routinely plays as one of the toughest holes on the entire golf course. When the wind is calm, it's demanding. When the wind kicks up and swirls through the trees, it can quickly turn into a nightmare. The shallow green is angled front left to back right, and that orientation punishes indecision. Miss on the weak side, and the penalty is immediate. Bunkers and water sit ready to collect anything that leaks short or right. Even the apparent bailout long and left offers little comfort, leaving players with awkward recoveries from difficult lies. Hole 14 is a par 5 measuring 590 yards, and it stands as Larry Packard's architectural calling card. A double dogleg that arrives at a pivotal moment in the round, just as players begin to smell the clubhouse. The hole weaves left, then right, forming a clever switchback that rewards precision far more than brute force. Players who find the fairway are given options and angles, those who don't quickly find the hole closing in on them. Layups aren't automatic here either. A pond guarding the right side of the fairway keeps second shots honest, forcing players to commit even when choosing caution over aggression. At the green, the final demand is visual and psychological. The green is dwarfed by a massive greenside bunker on the left, shrinking the target and placing a premium on distance control and approach angle. Hole 15 at Innisbrook's Copperhead Course is a par 3 measuring 215 yards, and it's where discomfort starts to creep in. By design. Once again, Larry Packard plays with bunker sizing to unsettle the eye. 2 large bunkers and 1 much smaller one frame the green, subtly distorting depth perception and making club selection feel less certain than it should. The tee shot plays downhill, but that relief is deceptive. Properly judging the elevation change in the wind, which often swirls at treetop level, is far from straightforward. What looks like a comfortable long iron can quickly become the wrong number. Hole 16 is a par 4 measuring 475 yards, and it marks the beginning of the famous snake pit, with the most nerve-fraying single shot on the entire course. The tee shot plays slightly downhill, but there's nothing relaxing about it. Players must thread the ball between trees tight on the left and a lagoon on the right, whose shoreline shimmies uncomfortably into view, narrowing the target and magnifying the pressure. Find the fairway, and the hole still isn't finished with you. The approach plays into another slightly elevated green, where depth perception becomes a chore, especially with a long iron in hand late in the round. Shots that look safe in the air can come up short or leak long, leaving difficult recoveries from awkward positions. Hole 17 is a par 3 measuring 215 yards, and it serves as the second hole in the famous snake pit, wedged between 2 of the toughest par 4s on the property. It's also home to the most intriguing green on the course. The putting surface is skinny in the front and widens toward the back, a shape that makes hole location everything. Front pins demand absolute precision, while back locations offer more room but place added stress on distance control, especially with a long iron late in the round. Because of that design, the difficulty of hole 17 can swing dramatically from day to day. Hole 18 is a par 4 measuring 445 yards, and it is the third and final hole of the famous snake pit, where the Valspar Championship is so often decided. The hole begins with a narrow tee shot threaded through a maze of bunkers, made even more intimidating by the fact that it plays slightly downhill into a subtly angled fairway bend. Commitment is mandatory here. Hesitation is quickly punished. Find the short grass, and the tone shifts. Despite its reputation, this hole does offer a legitimate birdie opportunity, but only for those who earn it off the tee. The approach plays uphill into a green that's difficult to see in its entirety, demanding trust in yardage and trajectory. Miss in the wrong spot, and even par becomes a fight, and that's Innisbrook's Copperhead Course. If this walkthrough helped you better understand how Copperhead really plays, hit like, subscribe, and let us know in the comments which hole you think decides this tournament every year. Thanks for watching. See you on the next tee.